What am I telling myself about this? And what you'll find is that kind of your fears and your insecurities, they'll rise up, they'll answer that question, and then you can know the emotions that you're looking to process.
Warm and wise. A few weeks ago, Studio 5 parenting contributor Heather Johnson walked parents through the overwhelming feelings that can settle in when your child is diagnosed with ADHD. Today, we pick up on a promise to visit the other half of the conversation and discuss how to help your child process that diagnosis right along with you. Heather is back for part 2. We received overwhelmingly positive feedback, and that first conversation so helpful to so many families. Why is part 2 just as important?
You know, I've been asking myself that question, in all honesty, and for more from a personal level. You'd think that it would be important. I mean, one, naturally, because we are seeing this diagnosis more often. We are surrounded by this, whether it's in our home or not. We have kids who have friends. We have adult friends who are being diagnosed with ADHD. But I've actually been asking why this might impact me a little bit more and why it's in my heart. It isn't because one of our kids has ADHD. It is now because I can see in my office, not just parents dealing with their children, but I'm watching how it impacts marriages as this isn't handled appropriately in childhood. And so then it impacts for decades two people who are married, raising a family.
It's a ripple effect.
It is. And them not knowing how to handle that. And a wife may be feeling like her husband has never been present. And then he realizes he has ADHD. And there's been this disconnect and they don't understand what it is and how it works. And then it impacts everything for decades. There's also this place too, and we just experienced this. Our kids have just gone back to school, and our 10-year-old came home after 2 days of school, and we're sitting around dinner, and she said, "Mom, there's this boy that when we play at recess, he says he'll play, but he always gets out of his square at recess. He won't stay and play foursquare, and he's jumping all around." And she said, "He told me he has ADHD, but I don't know how to be friends or play foursquare with him when he's always jumping around. What do I do?" And again, it hit this place where it might not be our own kids. But there are children, there are adults dealing with this all around us. And for us to be able to teach ourselves and our kids how to connect and how to buoy up, it is so cool when you have that empathy, no matter what the challenge is. And this is a challenge we're seeing more often.
There's the word empathy. So whether it's the fellow 10-year-old on the playground, the neighbor down the street, the child in your primary class.
The spouse now.
We all need to have this lens. It's a complex topic. We always aim to simplify. And let's set some emotional framework, I guess, first. You want parents to consider what it feels like to be that child.
To be that child. Okay, so we'll keep it basic. Understand it's 50 times more complicated in their head.
Of course.
But imagine a child gets up and immediately is reminded by a parent about the 10 things they need to do to get ready for school, right? And so it's, I need you to brush your teeth and eat breakfast and put your backpack in your backpack, or your homework in your backpack. I need you to get dressed, all those things. And so they go in and they're trying to brush their teeth, but while they're brushing their teeth, they look over and they see their shoes. And while they see their shoes, they remember that the last time they wore those shoes was when they went to the playground. And when they went to the playground, their best friend was there. And when their best friend was there, they started to play, I don't know, foursquare on the jungle gym. And then there was a dog, and they've always wanted a dog. And so now they're thinking about a dog, but their mom's telling them that if they don't hurry up, they're going to be late. And do they have their homework in their backpack yet?
But the dog.
But the dog. And so then they come downstairs and it's time to eat breakfast. And they start to eat breakfast and they see the computer and they think, well, I could look up what it's like to have a dog or the kind that I want. But while they're eating breakfast and they're chewing, their mind starts to recognize there's a rhythm to the chewing. And their body wants to move to that rhythm. And so as they're sitting there, they don't want to sit because their body needs to move to the rhythm of them chewing their cereal. But their sibling doesn't like it when they're up all the time moving during breakfast. So they're constantly being told, sit down, but they have to move.
Heather, this is 30 seconds and I'm already exhausted.
Barely. Now, we didn't even get to school when they get there and their teacher says, get out your homework. And they go, I don't have my homework. And then the teacher says, how come you can't remember it? And then a kid leans over and says, why do you always forget your homework? Meanwhile, that child is saying, but I'm trying. But remember, the dog was cool and this was, and my body, it's
trying.
Like that all the time. I mean, it makes me tired even trying to conjure up what that would be like. We have to consider that that is what's running through their minds all the time. And that's just the surface of it.
That was really impactful. That was really helpful.
It helps us understand, right?
We're going to clip along through a conversation that you might have as a parent with a child who is facing this diagnosis, the child you just described. Really quickly, let's jump to the end if we can. What's the point of a conversation like this? What do we hope happens at the end?
We want to make sure that this conversation includes everyone being involved.
Okay.
That we come away with understanding, a good solid understanding of what this is and what it isn't. And we want there to be this buy-in that everyone's on board We want kids to understand what the support system is going to look like, what the process moving forward is, and the understanding of what's actually happening with them.
You mentioned the starting point, what it is, what this diagnosis is, and what it isn't. That's a good way to lead out, you say.
A really good way to start. So we've got to know what this is. This is something that they are born with. You want them to understand that. It is like your eye color, right? We're born with it. Explain it to them that way. We have this misnomer when we have this conversation with kids that they are going to make assumptions. Do not allow them to do that. Say the words. This is not going to change how much you love them. Tell them that. This is not something that they did on purpose. Tell them that. Don't allow them to make the assumption. Make sure you say it. No, it's the same in our relationships, right? Yes, we want our spouses to assume we love them, but we actually should be telling them all the time that we love them. So we want to make sure that we're telling them that they are born with this. It is like that eye color. And we also want them to know that what this is it's a working memory situation. Our working memory is this place where we can take a lot of different things, keep one at the forefront while all the other tracks are running behind it. Our working memory is used in everything we do. So for example, that child getting ready for school, it's their capacity to remember, get your homework, get your homework, get your homework, while also remembering, brush my teeth, put on my shoes, and eat my breakfast. That working memory is challenged. We want them to understand that that's what it is. When the working memory is challenged, it manifests itself by either forgetfulness, which is the inattentiveness, or the hyperactivity.
We're saying all of this, clearly, plainly putting it on the table.
Yes, help them understand it.
What this diagnosis is not. What is that part of the conversation?
It is not a flaw.
Okay.
It is not their fault. It is not something they've done wrong. It is also not about intelligence. This is not about if a child is smart or capable of growing and learning, and it is not about ability. Now, from there, the rest of this conversation needs to be filled with two things. First of all, helping them understand that there's not excuses, and we're not going to use ADHD as an excuse. We don't want them to think that they can use it as an excuse to not work hard or not turn in their homework. We want to help them understand that, and we'll get there. We want to make sure that this second part is all about a working plan and the tools that they're going to acquire in order to do one simple thing, which is take the way their brains work and take the way society is structured and bring them together. That's what tools are. Now, how cool as a kid to hear, okay, this is how you think, and guess what? We have this team of people, including your dad and I, or including your dad and I and grandparents and a teacher, that are gonna help you gather the tools you need to take the cool way your brain thinks and the way society or your classroom or a family is structured, and we're gonna bring them together. Tools bridge that gap, right? They're kind of like, again, if we go back to the eyes, they're kind of like eyeglasses. They take the way you see things, and they take everything that's going on around you, and they make it so that you can see clearly. They bridge that gap between the two. Now imagine how empowered anyone is when it's explained in this way.
It's hopeful. It's possible.
It is. It's all very possible. So we want to make sure that we do a lot with explaining the plan and what those tools are going to look like for them and what a tool actually is, so that they can feel hopeful that no matter where they go, school or home or friend's house, they can pull that tool out and go, wait, I know what to do in these situations. Then you can take it into the space where it's not used as an excuse. And we have to make sure we're not using it as an excuse either, because as parents, because it can be more work, right, with emotions and with their actions, we sometimes use it as an excuse. Well, I'll tell your teacher your ADHD made this hard. Same thing. Here's how you think, and this math needs done for tomorrow. What tools do we need to accomplish the math given the way your brain processes?
It takes a lot of energy on both sides, a lot of discipline, character discipline, and patience, but you've set up a beautiful framework to have this conversation that hopefully marches people forward in a positive way. Heather, thank you. Heather has a private practice where she works with couples, families, individuals. You can find her contact information on our website.